3 days have passed since the incident at Shabati. Having been hit by Kuma, Luffy is teleported to an unknown island. Searching for food, he comes across some mushrooms and eat them. However, as he went to sleep, mushrooms started growing on his body and he is then discovered by a trio of Amazon women who take him to their city in order to cure him, but during the cleaning process, it's discovered that Luffy, unlike everyone else on the island, is a man. Luffy realizes that the island's name is Amazon Lily. An island populated entirely by the Kuja tribe of women warriors that men are not permitted to set foot on. He wakes up in a cell and receives clothing from some of the women there, who have never seen a man before and have no knowledge of them. He inadvertently angers his captors and is forced to escape when they try to kill him, taking a woman named Margaret hostage in order to recover his Viver card. While Luffy learns about the island from Margaret, his pursuers become desperate to eliminate him before the Snake Princess. Their leader returns. Luffy resolves to leave the island, reunite with his crew and defeat the enemies who had overpowered them earlier, and decides to borrow a ship. Margaret then realizes that she cannot afford to be friendly with Luffy, and attacks him, forcing him to flee. A few kilometers from the island, Boa Hancock, the Snake Princess and one of the 7 warlords of the sea, meets with a navy vessel commanded by Vice Admiral Momonga, who informs her of Ace's upcoming execution and the likelihood of Whitebeard intervening. He orders her to join the fight against Whitebeard's forces or risk losing her status as a warlord and having the treaty between Kuja and the world government annulled. Hancock refuses and using her love fruit powers, turns his men to stone and leaves. Hancock's ship reaches Amazon Lily and she returns to her palace and Nyan, a former ruler of the island, urges her to answer the summons in order to keep the treaty that protects her people, but Hancock refuses and throws her out a window. She then goes to take a bath, and some of the villagers discuss a legend that states that she and her sisters defeated a Gorgon, but received eyes that turn anyone who looks at them to stone. Luffy, searching for someone from whom he can borrow a ship, falls into the bath. He sees something on Hancock's back that surprises him, but does not turn him to stone. He notes that he saw what was on it before and Hancock tries to turn him to stone with her powers but fails. Luffy tries to escape but gets captured by the Kuja pirates and is brought to the execution arena. Margaret confesses to bringing him to the island, and Hancock turns her and 2 of her companions to stone. Enraged at the Kuja's lack of empathy for Margaret, Luffy punches out Bakula, the panther sent to execute him. Hancock's 2 younger sisters, Sandersonia and Marigold, jump into the arena and using their devil fruit powers, transform into snake women to fight Luffy. He gets the petrified Margaret and her friends to safety and then fights against Sandersonia and Marigold, but struggles against their ability to predict his moves with Haki. When Sandersonia plans on breaking the petrified Marguerite, he screams for her to stop, causing many of the assembled warriors to faint by using a special and rare kind of Haki that Hancock identifies as a conqueror's spirit. And with Margaret safe, Luffy prepares to fight at full power. Luffy gains the upper hand and desperate to finish him, Marigold and Sandersonia attempt their strongest moves, but Luffy fights them off and ties their tails together. Marigold's fire attack accidentally burns the clothes off Sandersonia's back, prompting Hancock to order everyone to evacuate or risk seeing the Gorgon eyes, while Luffy covers the symbol on her back with his body, saying that while she is his enemy, her secret has nothing to do with his fight. Boa is then moved to tears as Sandersonia and Marigold concede defeat to Luffy. Hancock agrees to grant Luffy the choice of getting a ship or saving Margaret, and he chooses the latter. Luffy is brought to the palace, where Hancock is shocked to learn of his attack on the world noble. He learns that the 3 sisters were once slaves of the world nobles, but were freed when Fisher Tiger attacked Marijua and that he eventually founded the Sunny Pirates from former slaves. Hancock then grants Luffy use of her ship. Following a party, Luffy learns from Nyan that Hancock is a warlord of the sea, and that they have been called together as the Navy is launching an all-out offensive on Whitebeard. When Luffy hears that they are planning on executing his brother Ace at Marineford to lure Whitebeard out, he decides to save him from the prison Impel Down, before he's transported away. The only hope of him getting there in time is for Hancock to answer to the call for the warlord so Luffy can hitch a ride on her ship, but the Empress catch a disease, and is lying in bed. Nyan discovers that Hancock's disease is the same one that killed her 2 predecessors, and has Hancock meet with Luffy. Luffy requests that Hancock take him to Impel Down, and when she agrees, much to everyone's shock, Nyan realizes that she is in love with Luffy. Hancock boards Momonga's ship to answer the summons, smuggling Luffy aboard inside her clothes, and depetrifies the crew before the ship sails to Impel Down. Elsewhere, Sengoku notes that Jinbei, one of the 7 warlords, refuses to fight and is being held in Impel Down, and learns that the 23 ships observing Whitebeard's flagship have been destroyed. At the same time as Garp visits Ace in prison, Luffy proceeds to Impel Down, but worries about his friends. Nami finds herself on Weatheria, a sky island dedicated to the study of weather, and learns about a special rope that can create winds, and uses the rope with her climate tact to stop a storm. Frankie ends up on the futuristic mechanical island, and is frozen solid in the cold. He is rescued, but because there is no cola on the island, is given tea instead and becomes a gentleman. Chopper lands on an island known as Birdie Kingdom, and finds himself in the nest of 2 large birds who play with him before accidentally dropping him into the forest below, and while searching for food to regain his strength, some residents of the island capture him. When they leave to shoo away the birds after an unsuccessful attempt at stealing their nest, Chopper escapes the pot and realizes that the birds ruled the island. Sanji finds himself on Peachy Island, seemingly entirely populated by beautiful women, and someone named Elizabeth nurses him until he wakes up. He goes to Elizabeth's house to return a handkerchief, only to find that Elizabeth is actually a male transvestite, and begins desperately running when the island's residents attempt to get him to cross-dress. Robin finds herself on Tequila Wolf, a snow-covered island. She is taken in by Soren, a young girl who works on the island as a slave, and tells her much about the outside world, which she pretends to visit by drawing pictures. Some soldiers break in to find Robin, smashing Soren's pictures in an attempt to determine her location, and Robin is captured. She learns that she is on an island full of prisoners and citizens of countries that refuse to join the world government, and that she and the others are being forced to build a bridge. Meanwhile, Usopp finds himself on Bowen Island, an island full of man-eating plants, with a man named Heracles. Zoro lands on the island where Kuma sent Perona. Perona treats his wounds, but forces him to stay while subjecting him to humiliating treatment. Brook finds himself in the land of poverty, where he is mistaken for Satan, whom the islanders had summoned for revenge against the Long-Arm tribe. Famous marine officers gather at marine headquarters, as do the rest of the Shichibukai besides Hancock. In Impel Down, Ace begs Garp to kill him, but Garp says that even if he did, the war with Whitebeard cannot be avoided.